we're starting now. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a guide to sustaining and growing your brand during and post COVID-19. 334,981 confirmed cases globally, 14,652 confirmed deaths, 190 countries globally impacted. On March 20th, a headline on Democracy Now! Read, "This is war." There's a doctor on COVID-19. We are at the beginning of the surge, and it is terrifying. The economic impact, large-scale quarantines, travel restrictions, and of course, we all know of the social distancing. Businesses have experienced a sharp fall in consumer spending, and this is expected to continue to the second quarter. According to McKinsey, which is a global business consulting firm, they are projecting that it will take until the fourth quarter of 2020 for the European and US economies to fully recover from this event. For Caribbean markets, it might take well into 2021. But recovery lies squarely on our ability to contain this virus, which is why our panel today includes a cross-section of experts from various industries to share with you how you can play your part in making sure that COVID-19 does not continue to grow any further. And you'll also learn useful tools and strategies on how you can keep your business going at this time. So let me introduce our panel. Hi, I'm Hannah Fitz, international brand strategist and business coach, and the founder of the brand atelier at hannahfitz.com, where I help consultants, coaches, service-based entrepreneurs, and experts build a world-class global brand and lifestyle for freedom. Our panel here today includes Adam Abansky, AKA the Mastermind, also known worldwide as the Millionaire Marketing Mentor. Adam Abansky is the go-to guy for successful B2B coaches, consultants, and expertpreneurs who want to better monetize their unique brilliance, quickly attract more clients, convert more high-end sales, build an authority brand, and grow a business that makes a bigger income and impact. Using his revenue rev-up method, Adam's clients multiply their revenues 2 or 4 times in 90 days. He built and sold his first 7-figure business in less than 10 years, starting with only $194 and a limited ability to speak English. Today, he influences over 100,000 entrepreneurs through his company Marketing Mentors. Our next guest is Dr. Tanya Beaubrun, owner and medical director of Integral Healthcare Medical Clinic at the Rodney Bay Medical Center in St. Lucia. She is also the founder of Satya. Affectionately known to many as Bubbles, she is a family physician specializing in integrative and functional medicine. She is a certified wellness and lifestyle empowerment coach, motivational speaker, and author. She is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Bubbles, Buddha, and Butterflies. Our next guest is Vera Furia, and she is an astrologer and conscious feminine expert and the former public relations and corporate communications professional at the largest Portuguese bank. She also worked as a quality systems specialist in the corporate field. A pioneer in Portugal in the human potential and personal development, transpersonal coaching, and goddess studies, Vera has trained with world-renowned leaders like Deepak Chopra and Louise Hay. For 20 years, she was the Heal Your Life facilitator and coaching trainer for all Portuguese-speaking countries worldwide. She is the founder of the School of Transpersonal Coaching, Wisdom Coaching Integral, and Conscious and Sacred Feminine and Masculine. She is the author of the first Portuguese DVD on personal development and spirituality, She is the author of 5 books and has been featured in major media like the Wall Street Journal, radio and television shows. She is a global speaker and workshop facilitator. And last but not least, our guest, Caroline Trubetskoy, is a powerhouse and the owner of one of the most photographed, multi-award-winning Jade Mountain Resort and Spa and Chastenay Resort. Jade Mountain Resort is one of the most Instagrammable hotels in the world and has been awarded 10 of the most luxurious hotels around the world on the worldwide list, and is on the worldwide list of the top 8 bucket list hotels worth the trip. She is the recipient of the Caribbean Hotelier of the Year Award in 2012. She has been the first vice president of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, the director of the St. Lucia Tourist Board, and the chairperson of the Tourism Marketing Committee for many years. She is the honorary consul of the Federal Republic of Germany in St. Lucia, and is a citizen of St. Lucia, and was bestowed the coveted Crystal Award by the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Authority. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so happy that we can have this conversation. And as we see this pandemic, this black swan, this thing that sort of, it didn't come out of nowhere, but it sort of came, it wasn't on the books. It wasn't on the financial plan of any business. And now we have to deal with this. But my first question goes to Dr. Tanya Beaubrun. And Dr. Tanya, when I read that article about This Is War, and that we are at the beginning of the surge, are we at the beginning of the surge of this? Is this really the beginning, or are we really coming towards its decline? Where are we, and what can we do to make sure that we nip this in the bud?
I think that in the West, we are definitely not near the surge of this. We are nowhere near that. Based on the models that we've seen in China and Italy, we have a ways to go. And it is my hope that we've learned from our colleagues in these parts of the world. And that is why we are urging, and in fact, personally, I'm begging everybody to stay home and practice social distancing so that we can try and do what we call flattening the curve. Based on the models that we've seen in these countries, the rapidity with which this infection is spread, the infectivity rates, it's going to far outrun our capacity of almost every healthcare area of the world. And even in the first world countries, they're talking about surpassing the capacity of the healthcare to healthcare workers to deal with this. So I think we are climbing. We haven't seen the rapidity of it yet, but it's coming. I'm seeing the numbers in the US are rapidly rising, so they are coming up there. I think Spain has made it far. The numbers have far outweighed what's in Italy now. So the onus is on all of us now to practice social distances, which is the beauty of these type of forums where we can have meetings, we can connect, but we have maintained the distances that are so critical for all of us, for our lives, basically.
Yeah.
So we didn't predict this, Hannah.
Yeah.
We certainly did not predict that this would come, and at the rate it is spreading, it has totally turned, as a healthcare worker, turned our lives upside down.
Yeah, and you know, Tanya, one of the things that I'm seeing, because I think it's very hard for a lot of people to connect with how important this whole social distancing is. And, you know, not just the health impact, but the domino effect on the economy. But one of the things that I've realized is the media keeps saying that young people, you're safe, you know, we're just doing this for the older people. But I read an article recently about this physician's assistant in New Jersey, who's only 32, had no pre-existing condition, is not a smoker, and is fighting for his life with this coronavirus. So do we know enough to say that of course, yes, a particular group might be more at risk, but it seems like there's no discrimination on who this can impact medically.
COVID-19 is indiscriminate in who it attacks. There is no gender, there is no political, there is no race, there is no financial discrimination. It will attack you no matter what. The models coming from the other countries are showing that the elderly, as well as those with comorbid conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, any respiratory diseases, are definitely more at risk. But in the case that you just described, remember that was a healthcare worker, and we are getting repeated exposures to this. In addition to that, we are stressed, which really reduces the ability of our immune system to really fight this. So we're overtired, we're stressed, run down with repeated exposure. I'm not surprised that the doctors who are dying are, yes, some are older, but there are younger people dying, and a lot of them are healthcare workers, primarily because of our risk base of repeated exposure. We're on the front line, so you will get a significant number of us getting ill, and hopefully not so significant a number succumbing to this disease.
Very good. So I guess we just all have to play our part and all have to take the necessary precautions, because, you know, as entrepreneurs, especially as this is tailored for entrepreneurs, you know, we know, like, most of us are the driving force in our business. Whether you have a team or not, you're driving this game. And so your health matters, your family's health matters, because it impacts everything at the end of the day. So I'd like to turn this over to really looking at, you know, the entrepreneurs in the room. Caroline, how's your business coping? Because ultimately, the first place things came to a halt was that travel needed to stop. This mass movement of people needed to stop. You run 2 hotels. How has this impacted your business? How are you coping?
Thank you, Hannah. I think I can speak for the travel industry worldwide that it has been an extremely traumatic 2 weeks, I'd say. Traumatic because I think many of us had almost like this sense of a sense of denial. We're optimists at heart, the travel industry. So you kept thinking, no, this can't get that bad, and so you're clinging to this false hope. You're trying to adjust to the daily changing scenario. And at the same time, you know, your travelers that want to come and stay, they're freaking out. So you're trying to reassure them. But at the same time, your own staff now reads about COVID and they're now very concerned. So you try to do the familiarization. And then, of course, the first border closings happened. And really, in the end of the day, suddenly it was just an overwhelming amount of cancellations. People asking for refunds. Then the WHO, the World Health Organization, declaring a pandemic, which really led to so-called business interruption insurances not covering any of the revenue losses. So you end up with this knowing that, no, you're not covered by your insurance. You have all of your canceled guests now saying, well, where's my refund? And then the inevitable happens that you finally realize it's over. I mean, game lost. We with the world has come to a standstill. Safety first. That's the only thing that counts. Keep everyone safe. And you end up having to close your business. And I would say in our long history, we have had to do it for little reasons, maybe for like a week, you know, but to really now look at a scenario where you close your doors and you may not be able to reopen easily till May, end of May. But as you have said yourself, Hannah, the recovery time will take a lot longer. And so it's still traumatic. And I mean, I think for all of us, whether 5 minutes a day to really just find your zen, because you won't become overwhelmed and you need to still find a sense of purpose and inspiration in this to see it through, because as a business operator, you want to provide assurance to your team members. You want to be there for them. And you also want to really assure the many travelers out there that in one way or another haven't lost their desire to travel, but they're also now insecure what will happen next. So this is where we are. And I don't want to, I'm sure you have more questions. I'll stop right there.
Yes. Wonderful. So I have another question for you, but I want to hear from Adam, because Adam, you run a service-based business, an online business. So I want to, and you also work with entrepreneurs who run these type of business. I think we both do. So I'm interested from your perspective, how has this impacted, how are you seeing this impacting service-based businesses? Adam, we can't hear you for whatever reason. I think you're on mute.
I'm a highly trained professional. I've done this before.
Wonderful.
I'm listening to this conversation, and it's really fascinating for me to hear different perspectives, because my first success story comes from brick and mortar business. I've been out of this for almost 20 years, but still have clients who are in brick and mortar, and they're definitely experiencing everything that we are hearing from your other guests. Being in the market of largely servicing my audience online and supporting businesses who also largely work through a long distance, providing services long distance via the internet, it's a little bit different. So, I see people who are definitely concerned about what will happen next.
Yeah.
I see people who are a little afraid of what's coming our way, but I also see our clients expanding. I see them as of right now growing, generating more revenue than before. So, seeing very positive. I also want to share some kind of different perspectives. No one probably, at least I did not see the virus coming. Probably most of us didn't, if anyone.
Yeah.
But we've had just a little bit over 10 years of economic expansion worldwide, which was the largest continuous period of economic expansion in the last 100 years. So it's not like we did not predict that there will be an economic shift and a downturn. So that's number one. I think a lot of smart entrepreneurs actually knew that there will be a market correction, that there will be a downshift to a downturn market. Second thing, if we go into some sort of recession/depression, hopefully it won't be very severe, but still, again, over the 100 years, an average downturn market is about 7 to 9 months in terms of like gross domestic product numbers, about 12 months total, and about 12 months, so about 1 year, and about 2 years. So, another year after the market sort of recovers, before the public confidence goes, catches up and people go up on the spending spree again. So we've got somewhere between, 6 to 18 months, a year to 2 years type of market that will largely be course correcting and downshifting. And I think what's really important to remember is that what paralyzes a lot of people right now is uncertainty.
Yeah.
Which is what most people are totally unequipped to deal with. And it's something that as entrepreneurs, we consume for breakfast every single day. If you've lived through at least one startup, many of us probably lived through more than one startup, we never knew what will happen from day to day or week to week. And I think it's kind of up to us to provide a leadership. I call it being the oasis of hope, the purveyors of solutions, the beacons of sanity right now. All of those things that, how we step up to lead our audiences respectively will largely determine how people will sustain themselves through this period. And here's one last thing I'll share. Like if you're in the hotel industry, if you're in retail industry, you're going to most likely not only be impacted yourself a lot, but a lot of the people that depend on you will be severely impacted, right? And I don't know if I have a solution at this very moment. But those who are in different markets, I think we have an obligation to continue moving the economy, because if everything stops, it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's, again, very important that entrepreneurs who do have solutions, who do have ideas, continue being, again, the purveyors of solutions, the beacons of hope, and continue moving the economy out there.
Absolutely. And, even at this time, as I'm studying various economic reports, it's showing that, certain sectors are experiencing a boom even now. And while some are being impacted adversely, like the tourism industry. There's no way around it, right? But then businesses like e-commerce is experiencing 230% growth at this time. And so I have a couple questions around that, because we know that in any crisis, in any economic downturn, I literally see it as a shift in business as usual, because we can get comfortable in operating in a certain way, and the market is now requiring us to shift. And I would love to get your weigh in on that a little bit later, but I want to shift to Vera to just get a different perspective. Vera, you're out in Portugal right now, and you also see things from the more astrological and spiritual and personal development standpoint. So I'd love your weigh in on, how businesses are coping, and your some suggestions on how they can get through this time.
Thank you, Anna. It's such a delight to be here with you all. Well, astrology is an extremely ancient wisdom, and this is a huge wake-up call. I would say that we are in the confluence of 5 major news cycles in this couple of months in the beginning of 2020 that probably never happened. So this is very, very much anew, or probably never happened, certainly never happened in our modern era. So this is certainly something different. Of course, that we have. We are going, when Pluto, which is the planet of transformation, the Greek goddess of the underworld, when he reached Capricorn, which is the sign of the institutions and of governments and power, in 2008, the crash on Wall Street began. So it was quite symbolic also, of course, literal, but quite symbolic of what we had ahead of us in this clash of, we are in a clash of waves, in the old narrative and a new narrative, which has a lot to do with what we probably you have heard about the age of Aquarius, which is an age of synthesis. I mean, it's kind of a synthesis of feminine and masculine, inside and outside, right and left hemisphere. I mean, it's quite intelligent, because it's the sign of the genius, right? So it will unfold. We have Saturn in Aquarius for three days ago. So Saturn is the structure, rules the structures and of the old society, all societies. So we are going to have huge opportunities to be more creative, to be more innovative, and certainly to be more solid, to have more solidarity, and to be more conscious in regarding to our all our structures. I would say that all these Jupiter conjunct Pluto, for instance, Jupiter is in Capricorn. All of them in the sky are in Capricorn, which is the sign of the structures. So this is a huge momentum. This is quite different from everything we are going to live, and we lived in the modern era. This is really what we have to bear in mind. It is a huge opportunity as well. Yeah. We can no longer we have to have a new mindset. Mm-hmm. We have to reach our hands. It is interesting that this virus urges us to take care of ourselves. That means that movement also helps the others. So it's quite Aquarius in a way that when I take care of myself, I can take care of the other, because I am preventing infection, and vice versa. Yeah. So and this retreat, this forced retreat, it's to go inside really for some, and to do a pause. And to prepare ourselves, because in this year we are going to have a rehearsal of what will be the next 3 years, with Saturn in Aquarius, which is the sign of innovation, scientific evolution. So we are going to have massive evolution and developments in science and technology, and of course in new the financial system. what we value will change. That is part of the new mindset, because we have also Uranus in Taurus, which is a completely new aesthetics and a completely new set of values, and the way we value money, the way we value the value of work, the way the values will change.
Yeah.
And we need
I love this, Vera, that you're saying about evolution, because this word keeps coming to me every time I think about that evolution. It's like we're evolving, and it almost reminds me of Charles Darwin, when he talks about the theory of evolution, and that, you know, you have those periods where every species will be tested, and it's about our ability to adapt and to change, right? And I think that's what you're sharing here. It's what's happening at a planetary level, and that's impacting us.
Absolutely, to change into a more conscious way of being civilization.
Yeah,
So,
love it.
We have a huge opportunity because Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Of course, that there will be massive losses of money and massive gains of money.
Yeah.
New opportunities will come. But we have, it is not forward. I mean, the mindset is not, this patriarchal era is over. I cannot say that we were predicting as astrologers, we're not predicting the virus, but we were predicting the end of an era. Oh yes, we were, for decades. Yeah. Last year, we were saying, I don't know what's going to happen in January, March, and October. The more these months will be more, how do you say, conflicting, but we knew it was the end of an era.
Yeah.
And in China, it started growing in January, and of course the tension with the United States and Iran, etc. But
sure,
these are all signs of something is really
shifting.
Yes,
I like that. So Sophie has a question for our panel. Sophie.
Okay, hi all, thank you. So for now, I have a general question for everyone. How do you expect the business to grow after the crisis ends? Any tips to build up after it all ends? And what are your personal expectations? When do you expect the healing to start?
Wonderful. So let's go in the same order that I see you. So I see Caroline, I see Tanya, Adam, and then Vera.
Me first?
Yes.
So I have read a lot of articles, like I'm sure we all have, and it seems generally that there's a thought that travel will come back very, very strongly, because all the people that are now sitting at home, they can't wait to get out. But I think that travel, the face of travel will change. There is definitely going to be a different type of industry after this. First of all, I think that the term responsible tourism and what that means, or sustainable operations, will forever be altered. Because when you look at how you look after your own team, how you deal with hygiene and safety in your own business environment, you know, will play a much more important role, because you can't open a business and not ensure the safety, first of all, of your own business team members. And I think travelers also, when will they actually feel it's right to travel again, where they feel welcome? Because again, now it almost appears that travelers are being, you know, the ones that have spread this so easily. So will there be shaming, you know, like, what, do you want to travel? What are you thinking? And I think that also, the travel type, like, you know, am I now ready to go into a mega resort where I might be sitting in a room with 200 other people? Am I ready for a cruise? Am I now more concerned about my immediate environment? Would I feel safer if I go to, I would say, maybe a bespoke luxury resort?
Like Jade Mountain.
Maybe there is more physical distances. I'm just talking about the future, right?
Yes.
I feel safer in a smaller place where I feel, well, listen, I'm not cramped in. But I do feel that a long way along the road, yes, there will be recovery, but I do feel that how the traveler is being perceived worldwide, how we travel, how we deal with our own businesses, that has changed. And we have to be very, I would say, aware of all of this, you know, and really prepare.
Caroline, before we move on to the next person, I just want to ask you a question. As you're talking about change and more sustainable, how do you see the business model itself shifting in the travel industry?
You mean in terms of what do we do now to see how we can grow it for the future? Yeah.
Yes.
It's a sensitive matter right now. I almost feel like you could pick up in the air of this global anxiety levels. And so I feel right now as a business, I just want to be out there and what if I post on my social media, whatever messaging I have, would be just to bring a sense of calm and assurance and help people understand what's going on. This is not the time now, I feel, for saying, you know, there's a great offer for 2021, even though, I mean, like, we all want to see some dollars flowing in, but there has to be a measure of constraint now, how you deal with it. You can use the downtime, of course, to, for example, your team members that are now out of a job, see if you can get them into online training courses, because there's also the thing, come back stronger and smarter. You can use downtime to work on your own business plan, whatever it is, to see if you can take it to the next level. So yes, you come back stronger and perhaps even more desirable. But along the road, then you try to work with your marketing message. And I said, you have to really be careful what is appropriate at what time. And try to then see how you can, in fact, ensure that the business does come back and it is, you know, looking good. Your team members are refreshed and maybe even have learned more during the downtime, and everybody is ready to embrace tourism again.
I like that. You know, what I'm really hearing also is this is also a time to stay connected to your audience from what you're saying. So while the hotel or your retail store or your whatever you're running, whatever the business is, I think it's pretty much across the board. It's really a time to build your influencer platform.
That's correct. You definitely want to be connected, but in a good, appropriate way. Yeah,
exactly. I like the word appropriate because this is very important. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. So Tanya, from the medical industry standpoint, with Sophie's question of how do you expect businesses to grow, how do you see the medical community and people's own attention to their health and well-being changing after this?
Well, I have to tell you, I got a little emotional when Vera was speaking, because as the year ended, and I have shared that with Hannah, I had this intuitive feeling that 2020 was going to be a big year. And a lot of people said that. What we didn't realize was that we assumed it was business as usual, expanding. Instead, the question you asked is, when will we heal? The healing has already begun. The healing has already begun. And it is up to us to take this opportunity to look within and see, how can I use my purpose? How can I use the unique talents that I have to serve my world? And when you ask about expectations, I honestly have none. I'm afraid, in a sense, to predict, because for 10 years we were predicting, since 2008 into you know, after the recession, we were attempting to predict the world model of business, of finance. Everything has changed. So I don't want to predict. I'm filled with hope. The world has gotten through a pandemic more than once. We will get through this. The important thing is what lessons we will learn. And for many months or years, I've been so passionate about the importance of lifestyle medicine in keeping people well. Because for far too long, the healthcare system has been a sick care system, focusing on treating disease management. There's a pill for every ill. There isn't any pill for this ill, at least not one that has been FDA approved, despite what's been said. There is no pill for that. And now more than ever, we've been called and urged to go within and to prioritize our health, stay well. The more of us who are well, you know, we've been talking about herd immunity, but the more of us who are well, the better it is for the community. And that's where you talk about the model of consciousness. We have to be more conscious about where what we focus on. We've been focusing on We've been disconnected from ourselves. We've been disconnected from the people we love. We haven't nurtured the connections. We haven't nurtured and nourished our bodies and our minds enough. Now we've been given 2 weeks. Most people have been told, hunker down for 14 days.
Yeah.
2 weeks where we have nothing to do. Even those of you who are working from home, you have space to decide when this ends, and it will end. It will end. When it ends, who are we going to be? How will we show up? You know, and what Carolyn said about caring for our workers. I had to assure my workers that it is not my intention at this point to lay off anybody. And yes, I'm in the medical field, but we've turned around completely here in St. Lucia because we have to now look into telemedicine. Something that we probably should have, but our people were a little resistant. Well, guess what? They're starting to embrace it now because they have no choice.
Yeah.
There are huge opportunities. And I know some people may say, there are huge opportunities coming from this. How we do life, how we do business, how we do our health, how we live, who we are going to show up in 2 weeks or 2 months from now. This has turned us totally inside out. Yeah. But I think in a good way. We have people checking on each other. We have people, you know, we have proper hygiene practices that we should have not been taken for granted, and we had. And look what, you know, washing our hands is something we grew up learning, and now we forgot, because guess what? We had phones and everything, but we're connected to everything else but ourselves and tuning into this inner wisdom. And we know what it takes to heal ourselves. And this is why I'm begging people, stay home, but do not waste those 2 weeks of being home by eating junk food and snacking on the right things and comfort eating and being couch potatoes. You can exercise at home. This is an opportunity to find out a new way of eating. I told my family today, you know what, if you can only go to the supermarket and have enough stock for 2 weeks, you need to look at things like intermittent fasting and shorten your eating periods, so that you don't run out of food if that's what you're afraid of, because it's unlikely you will. There'll always be food. But you know that people, so this is such an opportunity for us to practice connecting to something higher than ourselves, connecting with our families, you know, playing board games, finding out about your kids, because you run around and you, like, you know, two ships flying, you go to work, the kids go to school, and you both come up and you start your after work and after school activities, and you don't really connect much of the day.
Yes.
So the opportunities are tremendous for the next 2 weeks. But I'm urging people, I have to keep saying it, stay home, stay home, stay home, and practice social distancing. But take those weeks to transform your body and your life. This is such a perfect opportunity. All the time you haven't had to read books, and so, you know, read something healthy, learn something new. Caroline is crocheting. I'm starting. I've taken out my art that has been put in a box.
Caroline, you have to show us. You have to show us that.
I am taking out my art. I am focusing on how am I showing up for my patients, so I know they're scared. What programs do I have to share with them? I'm offering freebies. I'm giving them things to support them during this time.
Absolutely.
So as business people, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we have to show up for our team, for our people, and most importantly, for ourselves. So please, we all need to take care of ourselves as well.
I love this whole how we're showing up. And I think, you know, in a time of fear like this, because a lot of people are in fear, and we know when we're in fear, we're not really making decisions from a space of abundance, from a space of possibility. We're become a bit selfish in a way, and not in the way that we define it, but really survival mode kicks in. And as both you and Caroline spoke about, you know, taking care of your team, you talked about taking care of your patients. I think when we shift the focus from ourselves to looking at how can we serve others, it really helps us remove ourselves from that fear-based thinking to really tapping into that love-based thinking. How can I give more? And from that space, we begin to expand and we begin to feel elevated and inspired, and creative ideas flow in because we're serving others and we're almost losing ourselves in the process of being in service to others. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Wonderful. So let's speak to Adam. Adam, tell us, the voice of God, Adam.
There's a long story to the voice of God, Monica, but we don't have the time for this. You know, I'm actually finding myself very upbeat and positive in terms of my outlook.
Yeah.
Now, in this group of experts, I think I also have a very unique distinction, in that is growing in communist Poland. I actually lived through 2 years of martial law, where we had a night curfew. If you stepped out of the curfew, you risk being arrested. If you gathered in groups larger than 5 people or so, you run a risk of being interned, where you were actually thrown into a camp. You weren't in prison, but you were being detained for possibly, having some sort of mischievous intentions against the government. We lived on Russian food. We actually received every month little talons or coupons, whatever you would call it, little blocks, little cards that had squares you would cut out, how much meat you could buy, provided you could actually find it in the store, how much sugar, flour. I think bread was about the only thing that wasn't Russian. You received coupons for shoes every year to buy yourself a new pair of shoes. So again, I've lived through some shortages of supplies and food that most people probably, at least on this panel, have not experienced. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we'll get there again. I think we've wised up as humanity, at least in the civilized parts of the world. And the question was, when will the healing begin? I believe the healing has already begun, right? It's like a universe is one giant body. If something atrophies, something else grows, something contracts, something else expands. And I love seeing, I think Tanya said, we have to show up. And it's like how we show up is up to each and single one of us. I don't believe in waiting. I truly believe, Carolyn, you talked about being very careful of our messages. Rightfully so. We have to have a lot of empathy for people that are being impacted the most. Yes. And I believe those who can do something, if we wait, we actually hurt everyone even worse. So I believe in being ethically opportunistic. And, Hannah, you've heard me ask the question. If you're looking to get something for yourself, you're asking the wrong question. It's not, how do I get more clients? How do I make more money? How do I capitalize on this? It's, how do I use my current genius and resources to be of more service to more people in a grander and faster way? How do I become of more service? How do I put my resources, my genius, to be of more service to more people in a grander and faster way? And usually when you lead with this, you start noticing things that you can actually do that create a positive impact. And funny enough, those things usually create an economic change as well, not only for you, but for other people. Talking about contracting and expanding, so in hospitality, in restaurants, right, in hotels, people can't work. But here's things like food delivery service, Dash Store, Instacart, Grubhub, 7-Eleven. They can't hire enough people right now. There is no shortage of jobs. There's just jobs went from one sector to another. There is no shortage of money. There is no shortage of clients. There's only a shortage of creative ideas in action to actually make something happen. And, again, Tanya talked about disconnecting with people, being disconnected with people that are closest to us. Yes. Again, for the last decade or so, I kept talking about the fact that we live in fascinating times, which is it's easier to connect with someone across the globe than it has ever been before. I mean, look, we carry, instant telecommunication devices in our pockets. Crazy, right? I can talk from Amazon jungle to someone in the Sahara Desert, and it's like I don't even think twice about it. And yet we are the most disconnected from the person right next to us that we've ever been before.
Yeah.
So again, where something else atrophies, something else expands, gives us a tremendous opportunity to become more conscious about what actually matters. How do we take care of people most important to us, our families, those who depend on us, our partners, our colleagues, our employees, and then our clients, right? And then, I spoke earlier that I probably didn't see the virus coming. I saw the economic shift coming. I actually misspoke. Every time I stepped in the last, however many years into the public men's room, and I watched men's hygiene after taking care of their needs, I thought to myself, my God, there's a global pandemic coming, quickly.
You were correct there.
All jokes aside, ladies, here's something else that's very positive. In Poland, where I'm currently, I sort of by choice got stranded here on the other side of the globe. And I see tremendous changes happening. Again, people being sequestered and practicing social isolation. But, I'm looking at two things. So education, schools got suspended. And actually, there was an order being issued that starting tomorrow, Wednesday, schools need to resume in a virtual format. So all the teachers were instructed to start preparing in whatever way everyone can. But I'm realizing, and some people come forward with, amazing solutions to the challenge. And look, we couldn't transform education in the last half a century. All of a sudden gets transformed in a week. Holy smoke. Here's something else. Again, I personally have worked out of my home office for 20 years, working out of home, working wherever I am, out of wherever I am, very normal to me. And it's mind-boggling that people have to commute for an hour and a half one way each day to do the very same thing they could do from home. So metropolis like Los Angeles and New York that, you get stuck in traffic for 3 hours a day, if not more. All of a sudden, companies within a week have figured out how to make the workforce work out of home. What an amazing thing. What an amazing thing. But they couldn't make it happen for the last 25 years. To both of my daughters, one of them works for a company that celebrated 20 years. They do work that can easily be done from home, and yet they cram hundreds of people into cubicles. What's the point? She's happy working from home. She's just as productive as she was before. And now they found a way to do it. So again, I'm very optimistic without disrespecting people that need a helping hand right now, that are in the place, they got stuck in the place, got caught in the place where they can't help themselves. But the rest of us sitting on our hands going like, we can't do this because it's somehow, we'll be shamed. That's a mistake. We can't do that. We've got to be, again, ethically opportunistic, because if we don't put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, we can't help anybody else.
Exactly. I love this. And, as you were sharing this story about companies coming up with this solution, in a week, I was reading an article about a company in China. And this company, every year, they're in the fashion industry. So they would take businesses, retailers from China to Europe, to the showrooms, to select the latest fashion collection that they would then have shipped to China for their boutiques. Well, the fashion industry is very traditional. So they always demanded that you had to be in person in the showroom to make your order. Suddenly, their biggest market right now, China, can't move. So this woman was like, well, what are we going to do? And of course, she says, she has a bunch of millennials in her business. So rule of thumb, if you run a business, hire millennials. You want to have young people on your team. It's essential these days. So the millennial said to her, well, what's the issue? Why can't you just do a virtual streaming to the showrooms in Europe? And she's like, yeah, but the fashion companies in Europe would never do it. They're so traditional. She suggested it and they were all game. And suddenly she had more buyers sign up that was possible than ever before with her trips to Europe. They made more sales than they've ever made before. And she's like, why haven't we been doing this for the past 15 years? And so as you're saying, we are so steeped in the status quo. We're so steeped in tradition that we fail to move. And I feel like this is, I heard an astrologer, and that's why I feel like Vera's perspective is so key, because we can think that we're separate apart from what's happening at a planetary level, what's happening energetically. I had this astrologer talk about, Pluto sitting, and I said to Vera, it sounded like, a hippo is sitting in a spot, and it's like, if you don't move, if you don't change, it's going to push you to change. And that was in January that I heard this prediction. And we're literally being pushed into change. We're literally and she said the push, it might feel like, adversity, and it's far worse when you're pushed into change, but it's pushing you into your destiny. you know, I've read, you know, as a brand strategist, I continue because I have to always inspire my clients to hope. And I heard the story about this company, Nutella, right? In World War II, there was a shortage of chocolate. And they discovered, okay, you know what? How do we deal with this shortage? Do we close our doors because we have no more cocoa to make our paste? No, let's try to add hazelnut to it to stretch the cocoa. And now we have a great product that the world loves. We would not have had Nutella had it not been for that shortage during the war. So I think, you know, it's really a time for us to ask ourselves, how do we use this shortage to transform our business and to radically change how we do business and how we interact in the world? And as Tanya said, how we show up. Or as Adam said, you know, knowing that change is possible. Like in a week, we've changed. It's possible. It's hard, but it's possible, right? When we're forced to do it, we do it. So why be forced? Let's take the action. So Vera, I want you to answer Sophie's question on, you know, what your expectations are for the changes and the healing. When does the healing start?
Well, the healing certainly has already begun. We are healing the broken parts of ourselves individually and collectively. And 2020 will be such a huge year of healing. Each era needs kind of an image. Jungians used to say that each era needs an image that has the enough power, the numinous power, to constellate our collective unconscious and to inspire us into what to do next. And for me, one of these images is the Earth seen from the moon, as the astronauts have seen it. Because when they see the Earth from the moon, there are no frontiers, there are no walls, there are no, everything is one. And that is for me an image that has that numinous power of inspiring us for the next millennia. Of course, that, or for the next times. Of course, that nature has its own pace, and there is a time to sow and a time to reap, and we have to respect that. Also, I believe that from March to May, we will be focusing on how we can move on, rejuvenate, revitalize, and go anew. It's a very good time for healing, psychically and physically. Of course, that also, and healing is becoming whole, of course, because of course that we were sent home to our couches, and my father were sent to war, and my grandfathers. Of course, that it should not be that difficult for me to be in the couch. For some people, it is, because we have to face our own demons and our own. When the pace is slowing down, we're going to face our own voids, and so. But it's a huge opportunity. I can't wait to see how the human genius will create new solutions for the highest good of all. And we can see in Portugal some movements from the government already helping financially, economically. I'm very hopeful. Also, I could say, Anna, that in this there is a small part of the astrological influences that would say that somebody could try to steal your copyrighted material. So it's an excellent time, just a small parenthesis here, for us to create and re-strategize our brandings. So hiring a brand strategist, a marketing expert, to reinforce our entrepreneurship and our project, it would be a good thing to do. Of course, that when Uranus went into Aquarius, and the explosion of the internet, the universe gave us this immense resource and tool to be connected like one Earth. But the expansion of information is not equal to expansion of wisdom. And we have to be aware of that as well. And the expansion of consciousness. We have to do things differently, and we will do it.
I love that, Vera. I love that. The expansion of information is not equal to the expansion of wisdom. I mean, this is so on point.
I would just like to say something to Caroline, because
Sure.
Jupiter in Capricorn is not very, it's hard work, it's discipline, it's focus. So we must really do that in terms of, and focus in one or two possibilities and grow that innovation. But later this year, when Jupiter arrives into Aquarius, it will be better for the tourism and the flying and the travels. So we have to have hope, because things will get better, of course.
I love it. Vera, you said something before I ask everybody else to weigh in before we wrap up today. You talked about the void, and for many people who have physical businesses, like in Caroline's industry, who probably have loans and they have bills to pay and their insurance isn't going to cover it, they find themselves in that sort of void, but also that depression where as you spoke about, those demons are coming to touch, like, how long is this going to go on? Will I make it? Will I lose everything? What do you have to say to those people who are going through the emotional turmoil at this time?
For me, it's a question of going first inside of ourselves. But where have we placed ourselves? It's a new narrative we have to create. Yeah. As Tanya said, we have to serve as never before. We were given talents, we were given genius, we were given so much resources to share, and we have to do it as never before. And we have to grow that. For me, it's growing in, it's putting value where is the real value, which is for me also in our own souls. We have to reinforce that belief in ourselves and in love and in each other, because we will have to trust each other more than ever, in all industries, in all businesses. And we can expect, I believe that we can expect new solutions from our governments and our politicians and everybody, because there are people that we have to have new solutions. In Portugal, they are approving a law where people won't have to pay their rents for some months, because if they don't have income, they will not pay the rent. Yeah. That would be a solution, temporary solution, for instance. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that, but we will see.
I do get you. I do get where you're going, like maybe banks. So we're going to see more support. So they should not really spiral into too much fear, because they're going to get more support from governments, from banks, from institutions.
On one side. On the other side, people are being, I have seen people becoming so more creative, CEOs from companies, that what they really wanted was write poetry and being coaches, and they are to get out of the closet. I mean, it's quite
That's true.
What is going on? I mean, it's unbelievable. And I have seen this, I'm watching this all over, Yes. So this, for me, it's hopeful, because people are just honoring the gifts they have been given, and we are just breaking with the status quo in a global scale and creating new narratives. Everything is possible.
Yeah, I'd love to, Caroline, because this is very close to you. And I think given that the travel industry is perhaps one of the most heavily impacted industry economically right now, what would you say to the entrepreneurs who are facing that fear of the loss of income, wondering what will happen to them, their investments, their families? What would you say to them right now?
You think that's an easy question, yeah? So, no, I mean, really, it sounds maybe a little overused, but I really feel we are all in this together. We may not have the solutions today, but we have to work together to find the solutions and not leave anybody behind. I think that that is important, and even more important on a small island like St. Lucia where we live. And I think that's where we need to come up with strengthening the community and finding ways to help each other. Do I have the solution of what that is? Not really. I want to thank Vera and Adam for their advice. I will try to be ethically opportunistic, create impact. My favorite hashtag that I learned this morning. It's time to step up, not give up. So I think that would be my motto. It's time to step up, and whether that is with positive messages or with finding very proactive solutions to help everybody, the small entrepreneurs, our artists, our artisans, I'm for it and I will play a part. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So I get from you that this is a time of collaborating, of coming together, of building networks, and knowing that we can stand together to get out of this. Because I think what you said is very important for entrepreneurs to know. We can feel so alone. We can feel like we're in this by ourselves. And it's a matter of us letting others know that we're available to be there for them at this time, because they may not know, right? And so we really have to make it abundantly clear to everyone that we're by their side, we're standing with them in this time. Agreed. Beautiful. Adam, I know for businesses like ours, online businesses, it's a little bit different, but we also know that maybe there is a delay, right? A time delay for businesses like ours. So what would you say to entrepreneurs who have online businesses, who are concerned, who may be at a time where they feel like they're holding back, or they're wondering what's next for them? What would you say to them to get through the fears, to get through the uncertainty of this moment now?
What is this sanity prayer that is often taught in like recovery programs?
Yeah.
God give the serenity prayer. God
the serenity? Give me the serenity to know the things I cannot change, and
the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. From the day one this broke, I keep telling my clients, I remind myself at the same, every time I do this, I realize 3 fingers point right back at me, right? So good advice. Am I using it?
Yes.
This will impact every single one of us in some way, shape, or form. That's just what is. And I truly believe it's so, look, there's so much that we still don't know. Yeah. So a lot of the conversations that turn speculative, I try to stay away from them because I simply don't know. I can't predict this thing. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. None of us have a crystal ball.
Sure.
But, I'm looking at what can I do with what I've got right now? Again, the question I shared earlier, how can I be of more service to more people? I think it's so important for all of us. I believe like as you assembled a phenomenal group of people, every single one of us is leading some sort of community, right? Yeah. Caroline, I applaud you. You out of all of us here, you're probably in the industry that's most impacted right now, right? So for you to stay positive, to be able to not go into a panic rabbit hole, but go, okay, what do we do? Leading the entire community of people worldwide, you're in a small island. It's like, yes. People can, no one can just swim to get there. They have to have on a plane. It's like, you really are impacted. Yeah. So really being able to look at, some investments we've made may not pan out. We wanted them, but there's this great, I always forget the title, but it's like the most luxurious something hotel. Bo, maybe, I know you watch it. Maybe you can comment in the comments. And it's a movie about the hotel in India where retirees show up, and it turns out to be
Marigold.
The most luxurious Marigold Hotel. Thank you. The proprietor of this hotel is like, I love the actor, and he has this saying in the movie, it will be perfect in the end, and if it's not perfect yet, it's not the end yet. Yeah. I truly believe that if we take that attitude. I also, I'm a big subscriber to Stoics philosophy, and it's amor fati, love what is. Again, it's like, there are certain things we can do, certain things we cannot, and staying focused on what we cannot is not going to help anyone. So for all of us, look, I don't know what will be in a week, in a month, in 2 years. In the 2008, 2009 recession, I noted a lot of smaller, but like the online entrepreneurs, they got impacted with a 2-year slide. So 2008, 9, and 10 were booming years. And then 2011 and 12, they experienced a downshift, right? So they were hit 2 years later than others. Absolutely. So knowing that, again, something contracts, something else expands. I love the message of collaboration, really looking out for each other. If anything else, We've seen great events in the past that brought people together, either in a smaller community and larger in cities and countries. Hopefully this will be more of a global community coming together to collaborate and start taking care of each other. And hopefully men will start washing their hands again in the bathroom.
Adam, I can tell that this has been a pet peeve for you for a very long time. Wonderful, wonderful. So I just want to wrap up today by saying that, while I love what Adam said about being ethically opportunistic, because from that mindset, you are opening up yourself to receive inspiration. And, when all of this happened, I sort of started to ask myself daily, like in my meditation, I truly believe how you start your day has an effect on how your day goes. And so I typically start my day with, quiet time, meditation. I turn on music that creates the mood, because, if the first thing you do is pick up your phone to see what is the latest death toll or what is the latest, report on this, now you're in someone else's story and you're losing track of how you're meant to show up today. And so I'm constantly in the question of asking, how am I meant to show up? And in asking that question, that is where the inspiration for this panel came. That is where each and every single person I invited wasn't like, it was a divine download. Invite Adam, invite Caroline, invite Tanya. And so I really believe that if we take the time out, quiet time, there was a time when I didn't like quiet time when I was younger, in my early 20s. I liked the noise of the party, like I was there at the party. I didn't want the quiet time, but I've grown to learn that in our quiet time, that's where we're guided. That's where we receive messages. And as Vera said, we are in a time of a shift where we're going to experience expanded creativity and innovation. And innovation is required in a time like this, because, what did the grandmother do when she had shortages of food and 6 children to feed? She innovated and found ways to expand, what was in the kitchen, right? And so now you're called to innovate. Now you're called to make do with the card that we've been dealt. And how can you use that card to your advantage? And to, in the process, to benefit all, because we know what is for one is for all. So you creating opportunities, you coming up with creative ideas, it's only going to benefit everybody else, right? And so I think spending that quiet time every day, before you check your phone, before you keep up on the news and what the latest, quarantine measures are, whatever it is that's consuming your time, and really be present to how you're meant to show up today. Or what is next for you? What is that next right move that you're meant to do? And I invited Vera because I really believe that life is a balance between the masculine and feminine. And we can be in action, where we're reactive, right? And we need to be able to balance off action with that quiet moment that the universe is literally asking us to be in the feminine presence, to really take that quiet time and connect with, how are we meant to show up next? What are we meant to do? What does this time mean for you? How is your business meant to shift and change? Maybe you're meant to be doing something else, and that will be okay, because maybe this will be the greatest gift that ever happened to you, right? Maybe you've been thinking that this is the path that you're meant for, and the universe is literally saying, this is the new door, and I'm inviting you to step into it. So I hope that this, discussion was useful to you. I'm going to invite anyone else who wants to add anything.
Yeah, I just, the doctor in me will always come out.
Yes.
I'm going to reiterate, please stay home, stay home, stay home. You're helping me do my job when you stay home. But I think the words that come out of this whole crisis is service. How can we serve each other? And I think sometimes people think of servitude in a negative way. This is real service from the heart. This is a call for us to connect our heads and our hearts and see how we can use the head, the heart, and our hands together to come to this. So a quick story, because I know you want to get up.
Yeah.
When you ask about innovation and serving each other, we're in a crisis where we will run out of masks and protective gear for us medical thing. And I saw on CNN this thing about a program on 3D printers. So I knew we had somebody with them, and I reached out to him and I said, listen, I've seen this. Do you know anything about it? He said, no. I said, why don't you reach out to the manufacturer of your 3D printer and ask him if by chance he has that somewhere prototype and share with you. 4 hours later, he called me, he says, I have them. I have the materials, and hopefully by tomorrow or Thursday, he's going to be able to manufacture one. Now, I'm not saying and that's right here in St. Lucia.
Amazing.
So that's the innovation, but it takes us working together. It takes us coming up with an out-of-the-box ideas, connecting our hearts and our minds, and integrating everything we've learned.
Yeah.
So last few months, Hannah will know that I was questioning why, when I had gone and had done functional and integrative medicine, I now know why. Because the integration of traditional Western medicine with the ancient healing modalities is what is going to save us.
Yes.
This is what is going to save us.
Yes.
So this is where we have to start looking, because we're looking for the pill for that ill. Perhaps there is a pill, and maybe down the line there will be a vaccine. But right now, let us look at lifestyle. Let us look at the incorporation of Ayurvedic medicine, of traditional Chinese medicine, of homeopathy, of herbology, in a truly integrative way, where we work together to solve this mystery. Because I truly believe that it's a crisis, yes, but it's almost like a gift.
It's a gift.
It is a gift.
It's a gift.
It's a gift for that guy with the 3D printer to think outside the box. It's a gift for Carolyn to say, how can I give more of a heart base? It's a gift for me, because I've realized how much I love connecting with my patients
in person.
In person, and the telemedicine for me is adequate, but I miss looking into my patient's eyes. You know, I can see it on the phone, but you don't see the little nuances that when they tell you something, you know, there's something deeper to ask another question. You know, it's for Vera. Vera she's true. Every time she speaks, I got emotional because she spoke directly to the heart, to something that deep down I knew, but probably was afraid to believe in or afraid to articulate because, you know, maybe I'd be a little woo-woo.
Yeah.
So I think this is a call to action for all of us to one, stay home, to one, take care of our bodies, our minds, and our spirit while we're home, to look within and see how we can use this unique talent, you know, that special sauce we have to serve the world, and in a way that is not self-serving, but world-serving and conscious-based.
Love it.
And then finally, stay home.
Stay home. Stay home. Anything else you want to add, Caroline, before we wrap up?
I just want to say I'm definitely staying home, and I will follow Dr. Beaubrun's advice.
Thank you. Please stay home.
I want to thank the panel. I think it's given me new inspiration, and I have a couple of ideas which I feel could perhaps help the communities. And so I will definitely get off this call and try to make a great positive impact in every way possible. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Vera, any final words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom you want to add?
Congratulations for being such an inspiring lady, Anna. You have chosen a most wonderful day. Today is the new moon of Aries, so it's the beginning of the new year. It's amazing we are here together. So beautiful. I find it poetic. And as Tanya was saying, really, Saturn in Aquarius is exactly what she was saying. It is respecting after the tradition, the ancient medicines, but innovating as well, and coming into a new synthesis, a new creative synthesis that will unfold in our lifetime. I would say that we should learn how to validate our feminine intuition that will come by flashes of insights, and we should follow that. And finally, that it is a promise. It is a promise that from every chaos, a new order will be birth. So this is a new time. And
this is a rebirth.
Yes.
Love it.
On the new moon. It's beautiful, beautiful timing.
Beautiful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much to each and every one of you, and to Sophie, our business development and assistant here today, who has been moderating and keeping up with you in the chat on Facebook. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I'm going to be going through after and reading the chat on Facebook and responding to some of you. I know Sophie has already responded. Adam, Caroline, Vera, Tanya, thank you so much for being a beacon of light at this time. And for anyone who wants to get in touch with any one of you, I give you this opportunity now to share how our audience can reach out to you.
Who's first?
Adam, go. I see you're ready.
Right there on Facebook, probably my name is highlighted somewhere. Just reach out on Facebook, the simplest way.
Awesome, awesome. And I'll tag each and every one of you in the live stream, so this will be there as well. Vera, how can we reach out to you after?
Yes, Vera Feria in Facebook. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Caroline, I know that you have your associations and groups, so everyone probably knows how to reach you, but if anyone needs to reach you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Facebook is great, and also LinkedIn. So you find me under my name on both, Carolyn Trubetskoy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much to our audience for being here today. Thank you so much to our panelists. And remember that this isn't going to last. It has to come to an end. And this is your time of preparation. And this is your time, as Vera says, of rebirth. So use this opportunity to reinvent yourself, reinvent your brand, and as always, live the cultured life.